This revolution is not going away.
This is the Ron Paul Liberty Report with Ron Paul, Daniel McAdams, and Chris Rossini.
We are all ambassadors of the Ron Paul doctrine, and it's so simple. Just tell the truth.
An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army or any government.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning into the Liberty Report. With us today, we have Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you this morning.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you this morning?
Doing well, doing well.
Excellent.
But it looks like there's some positive news here. If you read Trump's messages, he always has a positive attitude, so I guess that's something going, as long as it's true. So the headline on Zero Hedge today, we want to start off with because it's a big issue. Could start off with elections. There are little surprises. Yep. I thought maybe the elections eventually would show that the American people, they're not too well informed and they vote crazy, but it looks like this really extremism and pushing communism on it, maybe some people will wake up. And it looks like some of the elections now are starting to show that. But anyway, we're going to save that for another day. But for right now, we want to talk about Zero Hedge's article. And the headline says a whole lot, and that's interesting. Trump, what did Trump say? U.S. controls the Hormuz Strait. I didn't know that for sure. I know they want to. Quote from Trump, I think we will keep it. Wow. So that means that he really believes this stuff. Confirms economic siege strategy. But he's also, talking about what they're saying there, economic siege strategy means they're military bombs. They're running out of bombs, and it hasn't made the Iranians surrender. But it also raises the question, could he be exaggerating that the U.S. controls Hormuz Strait and that he arbitrarily will automatically be able to keep it? And I think that remains to be seen. We can have our opinion, but that's not likely to happen in the near future or the near century.
Yeah, it does. It raises some interesting questions. Put on that first clip if you can. Here's what Trump claimed in a Truth Social post. We control the Hormuz Strait. I think we will keep it. Of course, that would be a surprise to the ships that went through over the last few days that were hit by the Iranian military. And disabled. But let's listen to President Trump in his own words explaining how things are going in Iran. You would almost think that he's living in a different reality than the rest of us. Let's have a listen to the president just yesterday.
Fantastic time in Ohio. The country's doing well. The stock market's fantastic. Record. We have 79 records so far in a short period of time. More people are working right now in the United States than ever before, and prices are dropping fast. Iran is going fine, going just absolutely fine. We totally control the Strait of Hormuz. We have control over it. Nobody else, only us. Our Navy is unbelievable, and things are going great for our country. Go ahead.
So there you have it, Dr. Paul. Things are going great. We control the Strait of Hormuz. Prices are going down radically.
It made me think of something that Hoover said one time. And these won't be the exact word, but the phrase is, a chicken in every pot, and things were wonderful. That's why people should be a little more cautious when they think they know exactly what's going to happen on what date, And now he says we're in control. There should be a peace pretty soon.
Yeah.
And maybe, do you think we'll have parades in New York City? Oh no, they would. But there'd be resistance. The communists will be out. The mayor will cancel their trip. Who knows what will happen? But they control the Hormuz Strait. But it's this bombastic stuff that I get so tired of. And when he talks about economic strategy, he's talking about more of what he's been preaching for a long time. Threat, innuendos, give them a bonus, send them more money. If you don't listen, we'll send you bombs. And then we're going to drop them on you. We're not going to just give them to you to drop on some of our friends. He's going to just go out and do it by economic policy. And I think this reflects an obsession, of a person that knows and is extremely consistent on continuing to build and preserve the American empire. And that's where I find fault. That's where I find a room for criticism, because it's not likely to happen, but he could. But the big thing is to try to describe to the American people and our viewers, it need not be this way. But it's eventually, right now, you could say, well, you listen to Trump, things are going pretty good. But he's not going to change our minds about the role the government should play, our government should play around the world. But I think the American people, I say they should wake up and not allow the Congress to do this. I think the people are waking up. And I think they have to start thinking really right now. We don't know really absolutely sure who's going to control the straits, but we ought to be describing the world and take a hint from, well, did they ever have a peaceful time with the Strait of Hormuz? Was it ever peaceful over there? Maybe we could learn a lesson and say, no, I don't think we were continually fighting, and they've been picking on Iran for a long time, but there's been none of this. What changed? And I would say, almost a year now, we started this hot war of dropping bombs.
Well, I would think that someone listening to President Trump say Iran is going great, we control the Strait, we're going to keep it, they might ask the question, well, then why are we still there? Why are we still fighting with them? Why is our military still there? Why do we still have two carrier groups there? If we completely control it and Iran has no say in it, why are our carrier groups, 500 to 700 miles away from the Hormuz Strait? Why can't they get any closer if we control it? Why can't we go home if we've won?
Right.
He's essentially saying we've won. And of course, this may be Trump setting us up for walking away by saying, we won, we're out of here, we're coming home. It might be a way of him washing his hands. Now, I did send over a bonus clip. For some reason, it didn't go through when I sent it the first way. But if we can find that and put that bonus clip up separately, this is what he said on his social media. Thanks. That was quick. Thank you, Sir Khan. Here's Trump. And this is what he put out this morning, Dr. Paul. Tell me if you think this sounds confident or a little bit not confident. The USA has total control over the Strait of Hormuz. I think we will keep it. Our naval blockade is being called by everyone a wall of steel, and there is nothing Iran can do about it. They have no navy. They have no air force. The remaining soldiers are unpaid. The IRGC is decimated and fleeing, and their leadership is uncertain at best. They have no money. Their country's shot. All they have is fake news and 300% inflation, and getting worse. Iran is all talk and no action. The bully of the Middle East no longer. Praise be to Allah. President Donald J. Trump. I don't know, Doc. It just doesn't sound very confident to me.
Yeah, there's mixed truths in there. The Iranians are having a problem. It reminds me of some of the conversation that the Vietnamese had with Americans, and yes. And so is this a stalemate and what's going on? But if one side is doing one or the other, of course, the Vietnamese said, yeah, we won all the wars, we won all the bombs, we had more bombs. And but the Vietnamese says, yeah, but why? It doesn't matter. So I think they're looking at this and trying to name it. Is this a real honest-to-goodness stalemate in every way we can think of it, and it's going to stick that way, and there'll be new boundaries? I doubt if that's happening, but that may be a slight explanation of where this so-called pause is. And other people would describe this, and you could make the point, this could represent a U.S. retreat so they have to advertise it as a tremendous victory. So we hear these positive statements, but you've mentioned it already on this air about the places where we had to retreat and move our troops on and not not as a sign of strength over there, but as a sign of weakness. And maybe it's also a sign we've run out of weapons. Maybe they need this for a pause to rebuild the weapons, and I don't think they're bashful about that. But one thing that I would like to volunteer and say, this has nothing to do with a victory.
Yeah.
There's no victory going on right here. So I think that in time it'll get settled. But it looks like it's going to be one of those things. These 6 weeks wars, 6-month wars, 6 years wars. They last longer than that. I mean, if the American people can't quite see this, and like I say, more and more Americans are starting to see this because they're talking about, even the people that have been really supporting Trump. He still has the majority of those people, but that group is even weakening, and they like the approach that he has used in foreign policy, but it doesn't solve the problems.
No, it doesn't. And if actually, just go back to that first one though, because the first clip. Sorry, got you running around crazy. But there are a couple things more about this. Now, I think we'll keep the Strait, we control it. That's sort of a humor aspect, but there's something more than that. Iran shifts to a survival economy to withstand sanctions and Washington's economic warfare. Peace talks aren't happening. Tehran says the Hormuz remains closed until Washington accepts all conditions. If you look at what is passing through the Strait, nothing is passing through at all. Very, very little is passing through. And if you go to that next one, Iran now feels that victory is on its side. It's become obvious there is no broader peace process, and things are in a stalemated situation amid what's broadly seen as Washington's retreat from military confrontation, leaving Iran to press its own vision of management over the Strait of Hormuz with Oman, which is a fact. President Trump has settled into a waiting game, which once again bets on sanctions and economic warfare to eventually force Tehran to bend. Iranian military leaders are declaring the victory is on our side. So what they're settling into now, Dr. Paul, if certainly we heard last week that the president's military leadership says that the military, there's basically nothing more we can do to reach our objective. So they're settling in for an economic warfare, an economic game, hopefully hoping that Tehran will blink first. Well, will they blink first? What are the implications for the U.S. economy? The assumption is now that Iran is being hurt so much that we're able to squeeze them as long as we want. But now, for some reason, my clips didn't transfer over, but I have a bonus clip too. I know it's a pain, but I wanted to get this graphic up. The question is, the supposition is that we can hold out much longer than Iran. We'll squeeze them as long as we need. But if you look at this chart, Dr. Paul, I think this says everything you need to see. U.S. strategic petroleum reserves are the lowest in over 40 years. If you go to the right over there, you see we are now at just 304 million barrels. I think that's actually lower than it was, than that. But this is Lisa Abramowitz. She's from Bloomberg, and she puts up this chart. U.S. strategic petroleum reserves have been depleted to the lowest levels in 4 decades. So Trump, on one hand, is blustering about how we can out-survive them. But the thing is that Iran has faced economic hardship. The Iranian people are used to economic hardship. I'm sure they don't love it, but they went through the entire Trump 1 administration under this maximum pressure campaign. Things aren't as bad as it was then. So the question is, who will blink first? I think the U.S. economy will blink first.
And I would make an assumption that the American people are more impatient than the people in Iran, and they're going to put up with it. They've had to live through this, and we've been, having an anti-Iranian policy, for decades, half a century, essentially. More than that. I mean, we've been doing that. And yet it is important that to the American people, they're not going to be patient enough. And I think that's why there's a lot of stirring. Just the hyperbole of this talk, people get tired of that, and I think people know it. But they're so helpless. How do we get together to stop this thing? And they say, well, I'm in this group, and they believe, and they're good people. But then they say, well, but why are communists becoming mayor of New York City, this kind of stuff. So that frustrates the people, but still I think the fight is a philosophic fight. And I think with the election, I alluded to the fact that there was information there to show that maybe this communist movement is going to fizzle as quickly as it rose. But we'll wait and see. It depends on people's attitude. It depends on the people who lead the country, what their opinion is of what we should do on this is a war and peace and authoritarianism versus voluntarism, and they have to realize that a voluntary system and personal liberty is the way to go, and not say we'll change the party, we'll get somebody else in there, and they'll be better managers, of the foreign policy. Maybe they'll come up with a new idea or new bombs or whatever they want to do. But it has to be more than that. It has to be fundamental on what the people believe in. The founders gave us those fundamental principles, not perfect, but best of all in the history of probably of the world, on how the government should treat their people. And for a long time, there was a very positive result. But right now, the guideline that we're supposed to follow through the Constitution is not very viable. And I allude to the fact, or make the point, that might be one of the big problems we have.
Yeah. Well, I think, the final word on this is if we've won the war, they have no military left, then why are we there?
Yeah.
Let those poor guys on the USS Abraham Lincoln, they have guys and gals, I should say, sorry. They've been deployed for now over 250 days. I think it's the longest deployment in history. I saw a video yesterday where 3 of the sailors attempted to commit suicide by jumping off the ship. There's plenty of recorded evidence that they are being fed absolute slop for food, and their situation is terrible. So bring those guys and gals home if we've won. Now, the second thing that we want to talk about, and this is from Responsible Statecraft, they have Dan Grazier, who's, I think, very good at the Simpson Center. He wrote this article. Go to the next one, which I know you've talked about this a lot, Dr. Paul. And when I saw it, I sent it over to you because I knew this is exactly would interest you a lot. Trump's $23 billion ship, if we can get that one up. The Trump class ships, Trump's $23 billion ship will be outdated before it even hits the water. The first proposed Trump class, this is only one ship, Dr. Paul. First Trump class battleship has a price tag, $23 billion. The cost, as assessed by the Congressional Budget Office, will garner a lot of attention. But the primary concern for policymakers and citizens alike should be the complexity of the ship's design. So it's already gone up since he first announced it, Dr. Paul. Now $23 billion for just one ship, and Dan Grazier's arguing that the whole thing is obsolete.
So I'm trying to figure out, is this bad news or good news? I'm going to start off with, this is really bad news for the Trump administration. Of course, they don't worry too much about the money. They know about the Fed, and they know where to get the money. So yes, it's a terrible thing because it's a failure, and it may end up disappointing Trump because he probably wanted to name this, ship, this battleship.
Yeah.
And who knows what? But $23 billion, that's a fair amount of change. And I think that is a big problem. But it could be good news in the way, wake up, $23 billion. And, I could claim, Daniel, you knew I was in the military, don't you? I had military experience, and I'm credible. They should listen to me. That I thought building aircraft carriers, 40 years ago. Why were we building these things? And it has to be all for offensive war, because if it's defensive, you don't need to have to be in 126 country. You're just looking for a fight.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's the money issue and all these other things. $23 billion, we ought to have a contest to have our listeners write in and give us an idea of how the government should have spent that $23 billion. Of course, my simple thing is don't spend it. Quit taxing people. Reduce the taxes. Let the people decide how that $23 billion should be spent.
One thing we can bet on for sure, it's a boondoggle, and someone is going to get rich. There are going to be some new mansions in McLean, Virginia. I just saw a picture of one going up yesterday. These mansions are about as big as Lake Jackson, you know. But someone's going to get rich off of it. If you go to that second clip, Dan Grazier points out that we've done a pretty bad job of building ships over the past 100 years. He said the U.S. Navy has a poor shipbuilding record in the 21st century. The Zumwalt-class destroyer, the Littoral combat ship, the Constellation-class frigate have been complete failures. The final verdict on the Ford-class aircraft carrier is not in, but when the ship's crew can't even rely on the sewage system to work properly, the case isn't looking too good. It becomes clear reading through the CBO's report that Navy officials in Washington have learned nothing over the past 25 years from their shipbuilding mistakes. In typical Washington fashion, the new ship is being touted as, quote, the fastest, the biggest, and by far 100 times more powerful than any battleship ever built, as Donald Trump put it. In practical terms, the ship will be armed with anti-air, land attack, anti-ship missiles, hypersonic missiles, nuclear cruise missiles, large lasers, and a railgun, which uses electromagnetic energy. Some of these things haven't even been developed yet, but don't worry, Dr. Paul. They will be on the Trump-class ship. No doubt there will also be a golden sign on the side saying Trump, USS Trump.
They forgot to mention one qualification here. It is also going to be the easiest target for the enemy in a real war.
Exactly.
You know, if they can target somebody 7,000 miles away and have the directions in the United States and target one guy and murder him, bomb a house. That's how much accuracy they have.
Yeah.
And this idea that, those are little bombs, they're building them bigger and they're going to do it. And these ships, I was not in the Navy, but I was sympathetic, especially 30 years ago, that our defense could be, carried out, with submarines a little bit better than all these battleships and aircraft carriers. But the other disappointing thing here is the measurement. We're not safer.
Yeah.
We're poorer. We're more vulnerable. We've created more enemies. And I just cannot understand why people say, that sounds like a good system. Did anybody ever try it? Yes, United States did, and it still lingers. It's still alive and well with a minority number of people in this country, and we're going to have to rebuild it because this system can't be fixed. We can't say, let's have somebody at the Fed. Let's put Ron Paul at the Fed, and he has a tool where he's going to slowly raise interest rates up to the market level. Well, that's crazy stuff. So, but we still have to have it, replaced. And maybe the founders had some pretty good ideas that we gradually and steadily have eroded. And right now, it's a continuation of economic intervention and corporatism and all the favoritism that's going on. So we're not safer. We are not safer by this type of thing. We're made. We threaten people. We have these drones, and all it does is make more enemies for ourselves. And they say, but we didn't have as many deaths as the Iranians had. They had many people killed. With babies in their arms and all this. And we have to go 7,000 miles. We did. I guess taking over, Venezuela proved that we were tough and we could take over a country and pretend that we own that country forever. And so we want to broaden our horizon, which we already have by having been in these countries for so long. I mean, we've been involved in ever since World War II.
Yeah,
In a lot of these countries.
Well, you mentioned corporatism and corruption. That's important. There's one little point I want to just make on this article before we close. If you put on that clip, all of the systems will require a tremendous amount of electrical power to operate. To meet this challenge, the new ship will be nuclear powered. The addition of nuclear reactor will dramatically increase both the cost and complexity of the ship's construction. Now, here's what I highlighted, Dr. Paul, because it's so important. The original sin of all of the Navy's 21st century shipbuilding failures is a lack of design discipline. The architects of each program attempted to incorporate every gadget the technologists could imagine, several of which, including the railguns, remain unproven to this day. Excess complexity drives up costs and delays delivery, often by years. Now, you could say that's true in spades for the Air Force, too, the F-35. The reason why it's unfortunately, although it is a beautiful plane and I love seeing it flying, it's essentially a piece of junk as a fighter. And that's why the F-16 was probably the greatest fighter ever designed and ever built. Colonel Boyd was at the center of the design. They kept it simple. It just had a couple of things. It didn't need a toaster and a microwave and an espresso machine. It just was a good fighter. And that's the same problem here.
With this information, it's so ironic that the fast speedboats are being used more now than ever before, and in many ways effective.
Very effective. You're right.
So it's a pity, but it's the overall policy of non-interventionism and why governments exist. But that's been going on for as long as history's been written. But that doesn't mean we should decide, well, let just the meanest, toughest person should control. And we've had episodes where they depended on that. The 20th century, there were some mean, nasty guys that were in charge, but they were defeated and they were put out. But we still have the principle that if we modify interventionism and authoritarianism and pretend that we're helping the poor, we can fool the people for a lot longer time. So we do this to protect the people and giving out food stamps to the rich, food stamps for the poor, and protecting them from an invasion. And at the same time, who suffers the most? The people that have to go along and shut up. It's the middle class, and they're the ones who have to suffer from the inflation, the destruction of the money, and right now they're facing, the turmoil in our cities, and that I think is going to continue to get left because there's so much of a discrepancy between rich and poor in a system that we have, and then they're turning around and successfully saying, "See, we told you." The communists are now saying, "See, we told you so. Your ideas of capitalism, very bad, and it's going to give trouble." I resent the fact that people let them get away with saying that it's capitalism. They should qualify the word capitalism and say free markets, free market capitalism or something, because that is not what is failing. It's authoritarianism and this economic intervention and funny money and endless wars, ignoring debt. All these things that for failure. So they don't have the intellectual right to say, oh, those guys that believe in free markets, look at what we have. Now, what you need is good old communism, and we'll solve the problem. So.
Well, I'm going to close out by making yet another speaker announcement. This likely will be the last one, and I'm really happy about this. If you skip that next clip and just go to the picture, Jim Webb is going to be speaking at our conference. Dr. Paul, Jim Webb is a terrific guy. He runs a very, very popular Jim Webb podcast. I encourage everyone to listen to it. In fact, one of his regular guests is Joe Kent, who's also speaking at our event. So I wanted Jim to come because Jim, I think, is a great example of the new type of communicators we have, who bringing news, bringing analysis straight to the people, speaking the truth. Jim Webb, as was his father, the former senator from Virginia, Jim Webb, by the way, who I voted for the last time I voted, I think, ever. His dad was a great guy. Jim Webb is following in his father's footsteps. Decorated U.S. Marine officer, like his father and many generations of his family. Host of the popular podcast. Also, this is a fun fact, Dr. Paul. He's a former military staffer for Senator Rand Paul. So he's been around, he's great, and he's going to be speaking. He's going to join, as I mentioned, Joe Kent, Max Blumenthal, Dennis Kucinich, Josh Paul, and a special message from Tucker Carlson. This event is really shaping up to be something that is going to capture this moment in time. Very importantly, we do have some media interest in the event as well, but I would just encourage people, don't miss out on this moment. Get those tickets, front row at the Revolution. That's what we're going to be bringing you on September 5th, Dulles Airport area. There is a link in the YouTube and Rumble description today, but if you're not on either of those, just go to ronpaulinstitute.org and you will see a link where you can buy those tickets. It's a full day of great speakers, a pretty good lunch, by the way, we've always had there, and also a very good time. So I'm excited, Dr. Paul. I can't wait to get there.
Very good. I want to follow up a little bit about a positive attitude because I think it makes a big difference. And right now, generally speaking, when we do our programs, sometimes I mention the bad side, but how we should turn that around and make it a good news, maybe motivate us to do the right thing and solve the problem. So the positive attitude, but I would have to say that I'm biased enough to say that our conferences are positive and people will feel good. We will tell and do our best to tell everybody exactly what we believe is happening, and some of it is not so good, but the answer to it is not difficult to understand, and that's what we want to emphasize, and that's the good part. And under those cases, most people, if they know they're on the right track and feel comfortable with it, they enjoy themselves. So those are our goals, our technical goals, is to get people together to meet other people and to have a good time and find out that there are some good ideas out there and that they're capable of being used, and they're very important because it's the good ideas. A good idea can't be stopped. We know that. And its time has come. And what we want to do is make sure the time has come for making our government much more limited and emphasize the importance of personal liberty. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.
Thanks for watching the Ron Paul Liberty Report. Like and subscribe to help spread the message. And until next time, live free.